yours, Pete. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name's Pete Cooper. I'm the CEO and founder of Skillion. We provide IoT solutions, Internet of Things solutions. We're based out at Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and part of the Ben Franklin Tech Partners. The business problem I'll start with is that we have a purchase order, $458,000 worth. It's our first major purchase order, but the problem is how to fulfill that order. So we're an Internet of Things solutions provider, and one market that we are focused on right now is the e-mobility fleet management market. And so what does that mean? Well, Internet of Things is essentially where we connect any device to the internet, often wirelessly, but sometimes wired. A classic example is putting an Internet of Things device into a refrigerator so that you can work out what's inside the refrigerator. But we're much more interested in mobile, cellular-based technologies, mobile products. And so when we talk about e-mobility, we're talking about electric-powered electrical devices, such as e-bikes and scooters. So e-mobility is that last mile logistics. So that's that 1 to 5 miles. It's for personal transport. So it's how people get, for example, from the car park to their office or around the city. It's for package delivery, and it's for recreation. And it shouldn't be understated how much people do this because they enjoy it. Yes, it's functional, practical, and logical, but it's also a lot of fun. Now, you're probably familiar with ride sharing, like Lime, companies like Lime, Scoot, Uber, or for the dockless scooters and bikes that we've seen around. But also another example is City Bike, been very successful in New York. And that's that ride sharing. So this chart shows on the top right-hand corner there, ride sharing is part of this e-mobility market. And that's where we have this, our first customer. I'll talk more about that. But the importance of this slide and importance to understand is that there's a whole lot of other opportunities. Rental out of bike stores, vacation resorts, corporates, and we actually sold to a corporate our products back in 2018. There's government, there's delivery, and you can imagine Amazon. In fact, we spoke to Amazon a few weeks ago. Their business is booming right now in this crisis because grocery delivery has become a really important part of this lockdown solution. And then there's the privately owned e-mobility devices. So that's the market, that's the scope. Our customers are fleet managers. In other words, they're people who run these fleets and owners. And they have a whole plethora of problems. I'm not going to get into that, but just to say that these, our product is designed for those fleet managers. Excuse me. So this product is a console, a computer, if you like, that fits or retrofits to the handlebars of an e-bike or an e-scooter. So it's something about the size of the palm of your hand. And on that is a cellular connection, a GPS, at least one camera, sometimes multiple, and it's integrated with the systems on the bike. It's designed to be retrofitted so that a fleet manager can take our product and bolt it on, download the software, and they have a fleet management system ready to go on that bike or scooter. And for that, of course, to happen, there needs to be the transmission of the data back to the fleet manager. So we say this device collects data in, around, and on. In being what happens within the bike for maintenance, battery cycling, where the bike's going, how hard the motor's working, all those things associated with the bike that might be useful for maintenance. We say around, we provide a security solution for this. It's part of what we did in 2018, where we used the camera to remotely view what's happening around the bike so that the owner can manually set off alarms and things from a distance. And then on, so we're providing data about the rider, but also providing safety features and support to the rider to improve the user experience. So that data goes back to the fleet manager. There's also an app so that the rider can get access to the bike or to the system for bookings and all sorts of things that you'd normally expect with a ride-sharing program. So an important thing to realise, and I'll explain this in the next few slides, is that this is a platform. It's not designed to have one application and one only application ever. It has multiple applications. In fact, it's an open SDK or software development kit platform so that people can build applications on top of it. When I say people, I mean us, when we build our own concepts for our customers. We can also customize those. It might be something as simple as a logo, or we can get third parties to come and build software and then put that onto our platform as well. One of the ways we protect this product is that we aim to have as many patents for each different application as possible. So I'm just going to run through a couple of applications that I think could illustrate this a little better. One is helmet detection. So this is where our first customer is. This is the guy that's got the purchase order. He's based in India. He has a fleet of 3,000 bikes, and he recognizes there's a problem for him with regards to liability. There's a new law which makes helmet riding mandatory in India, and the fleet managers can actually be fined. So he's asked us to develop an application for our platform which detects helmets and then sends a message if someone's not wearing a helmet. And then he can withdraw some of the deposit. We have advanced this development as far as we can. We have proven that we can use the machine learning tools, but that needs further work. We can build an app. We know we can get the hardware inexpensively off the shelf, and then it needs a sort of mechanical wrap to complete this project. So to break down what this purchase order is, the top line there's the revenue, but I said that there was a hardware purchase order of 458,000. That's for the hardware components, that's for the devices that you see. There's also a subscription at $1.50 per unit per month. And I've only put the first 6 months in here on this purchase order, but it could go on to perpetuity. So for the first 6 months that we're running this project, the total revenues would be 485,000. The costs 358,000, leaving us a total profit of 138,000, 24%. But in the costs are development efforts, the development of and first prototypes, 47,000. The tooling and pre-production is 20,000. So if those components were taken out, the project would be more profitable. And why do I say that? Because other projects that we have planned would not require those initial development costs, a much smaller development cost for the different customizations. The cost of goods sold for the 3,000 units is 246,000. And then we have an engineering support component of 30,000 and provisioning. In that cost of goods, we're planning on about $80 per unit built, packaged and shipped. Then the customer takes it out of the box and puts it onto their bikes and scooters, sets up the programming, and they're away to go. The operating capital maximum is $116,510. What that means is that we start from zero and we have to spend money down to 116,000, and then we begin to climb back out of it. So we are behind on our cash flow. That's why the operating capital maximum is stated. So just to round out this conversation, to understand the platform side of things, I've got a couple of more examples. For example, fleet management. QuietKat and Saboa are interested in this product strictly for fleet management. We have a product that Amazon's interested in, but really every single rider that rides on the road sees this as a great product because it alerts them as to what's coming up behind them. So it's a great safety product, and that's another application. The maintenance and leasing data. So Amazon's asked us repeatedly about providing data for maintenance, and Junto is interested in a new business model for leasing e-bikes, so they need data for that. Interesting product for many rental stores. They like the idea of virtual tours, and that's something we can do with our connected dashboard product, turn by turn, directions to key sites, features, and they can buddy up for partnering opportunities and also capture media for social sharing. So it's a great marketing tool for them. And of course, fleet delivery proper. We have built up a solution where we're working for Amazon. We're working towards for Amazon, which gives them operational efficiency, security, and safety features for their delivery that they're trying in New York. So overall traction, we break it across different tiers, from tier 1s like the Amazon to tier 4s like the little bike stores. Our sweet spot is really around the tier 2s. These have fleets of 1,000 to 2,000. They're hungrier. They're more willing to challenge the status quo, try technology, and they will grow into bigger customers as we go. But of course, we entertain all customers because smaller customers become bigger ones. Just to dig into our business model, as it'll make a bit more sense now with this, we sell to fleet managers who ultimately get their revenue from their riders. But we also sell to distributors. So QuietKat's a good example of this, where they want to take our product, put it onto their bikes, and then sell that to resorts. And we're looking at distributors in countries as well to take our product to other fleet managers, to riders as well. We monetize this through the sale of hardware. Our lowest price product is $150, and it goes up from there depending on the specification. As I said, we're bringing that in at the moment about $80 packed and shipped. Well, that's our estimate, but we think we can go down from there to much, much less than that as volumes go up and we optimize the supply chain. Importantly, we get monthly recurring revenues for each bike, and that starts at $1.50. For example, the helmet detection for our early customers. We plan to put more software features on, software as a service, and grow that. So if they're getting they want to use multiple features and applications, then it could be as high as $10 or even more per bike per month. Funding plan. Quickly, we need 50K to build out those prototypes. Plan another 150K, which would round out our capital and also allow us to secure another 50K, which is pledged from Ben Franklin, build out some other product and do some more development work, business development work for those other customers we've got lined up. Ultimately, we are raising capital over the next 6 months to $550,000 to chase the market. Almost there. A couple more slides just quickly on the market. Micromobility is the market we're playing in. It's expected to grow by 1,000 times over the next 10 years, from 240 million down to 300 billion, which is a massive, massive growth over the next 10 years. And even in these times, it's still proving that micromobility has its place. People are getting off public transport and more willing to use bikes and scooters. Some of those companies are even working out ways to sanitize the bikes for people to jump on and off. There's a lot I think we can do to innovate and have this as part of the future. I think that we're going to have with after we come out of the lockdown and into sort of more pandemic aware business models. But and then we're back to that slide which I've already explained. So thank you. If there's any questions, of course, now's a good time.
All right, thank you, Pete. That's really fascinating model in your business. And as one of the actually users of City Bike, this is very exciting. I have a lot of personal interest in City Bike, and that uses and actually is growing. And I'm glad you joined us and actually presenting growing model and as unique, and actually it is kind of really the selling model. So I'll get questions, and everyone now can actually, now you can unmute and then speak and share your question and your comments.
So this is Bruce Waltuck. I have a question. I wanted to ask how long you have been in this business already. I mean, when I see this presentation and the level of detail that you provide, it gives the sense that you've been at this for a while. How long have you been doing this and scaling up to this level?
Okay, thanks, Bruce. That's a great segue into, well, a long discussion. I could go way back. Skillion proper, 5 years. The IoT solutions part, less than that, say 3 years. We started in electric bikes, got some grounding in there before we moved into there. I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years. My first startup kind of became a bit of a shelf company, and it's still there today, but it's not really doing anything. My history goes back to being involved with Nokia back in the 90s. I'm an engineer. I ran their R&D center, went to Europe and designed the very, very first micro-manager camera modules for Nokia, and led a team to get that up and running. And then I spent some time in Agilent, furthering my understanding of imaging, and got some patents and things around that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a bit of an engineering background to that, which leverages very, very well into the Internet of Things, especially what we're doing now. And one of the tricks that we are using is that we're not building an IoT device from scratch. The IoT device is actually an Android phone. It's being masked by putting it into, being hidden from view by being put into a mechanical housing and fitted to the bike. But it gives us all the capabilities of a cell phone at a very, very low cost, and also the platform capabilities of putting apps on it.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bruce, excuse me, Pete. It's sorry, Bruce was just talking. Pete, it's Jeff Victor. I had a question just from a business development standpoint. Just because I've actually had a recent meeting with them. Is have you been in touch with the National Fleet Management Association? They're actually based out of Princeton. And their board of directors is actually pivoting, because fleet management used to be about, Merck has 1,000 sales people and they have, they have 1,000 cars. Now fleet management is kind of pivoting toward different solutions for those things. So they're really looking at things like, alternative transportation solutions, especially in cities where they're not paying parking tickets and things like that. So that might be an interesting opportunity for you.
I had not heard of them. I would love to get in touch if you know anybody in there that can point me in the right direction. They sound like an organization.
Yeah, they're actually going through a leadership change. They're in the process of looking for a new CEO. But their board of directors has been pretty hands-on. The person that's there was there for like 20 years. It's called NAFA, the National Fleet Management Association. So that might be helpful for you.
That would be. It's mostly around cars, right?
It is, but they're exploring all sorts of different solutions. In an area like New York City, they might be looking at electric scooters, with the price of like the Segway 9bots coming down and things like that. I think they're looking at all sorts of different opportunities, but considering it's software, you're kind of looking at a software as a service. There might be some opportunities there.
Yeah, that sounds like a great lead. Yeah, I think the device fits very nicely onto e-bikes and scooters, but one of the pictures there showed on the Hawaiian-style rentals, I can flick back to it, they put it onto what they call a scoot coupe, which is a three-wheeler device. There's legislation around those which is quite lenient. So these guys in Hawaii are doing exactly that. So there it is there. That's a three-wheeler. The idea there is we could put this device just on the dashboard there, And because it's all software, I mean, it could be even bigger, but like the size of an iPad, or even as big as this Tesla solution. It doesn't really matter. The size or of the screen or the format. The mechanical, electronic things are actually quite easy for us to solve with this technology.
Peter, as I was watching the presentation, I was sitting here with my calculator. I imagine one of the biggest obstacles you have to face is the cost of putting your unit on each electric bike or vehicle. How do you frame that with potential customers in terms of the value that you're adding?
Okay. Well, with Buy My EV, that's our first customer. His expectation that he unpacks a box, there's the solution. He essentially goes over, picks it up, takes it over, clips it onto the handlebars and tightens up a screw. Then he has to plug 5-volt power in, which all electric bikes have. And he certainly confirmed that. So yes, he'll have to employ someone to do 3,000 bikes, but I think we're talking about 5 minutes or 10 minutes per bike to get it loaded on. And then he has to just simply connect it to the network. Now, it is up to him also to put the SIM card in, because he's in the local area, and he'll know how to get the better deal. And we're not charging for the data. It's something that it's independent of our business, that he uses a data plan of his choice. So yes, there is a small amount of overhead to fit this, but he's accepted that. I think the other thing that we're working on as we get more mature as a business is working further up the value chain to those distributors and then manufacturers, so that we can ship our product directly to a manufacturer in maybe a more integrated form that goes straight on the bike before it even leaves the factory.
Hey, Peter, this is Joe Mealy.
Sure.
Two questions for you. The first one is, so where do you stand customer-wise in terms of, do you have revenue-generating customers at this point? Are you the step before that? Or was curious about where you stand customer-wise. I saw the graphic that you put up. Do you have deals with these companies, or which one of these companies do you actually have deals with at this point?
The only customer we have a deal with is Rent My EV, and that's for that $458,000 purchase order. We are pre-revenue.
Okay.
Having said that, we did build a product and shipped it for a company called the Bircham, which is a tier 4 customer there in 2018. That's before we left Australia, moved the company here a year ago. The types of traction that we have, I guess from left to right, Amazon, we're under NDA with them. They've definitely shown us significant interest. We've had several meetings with them. They're holding us off. They said to us, to quote, nobody is doing something like us, and they have been looking, which was very encouraging, especially when their values matched ours. They were looking for maintenance and tracking of the asset. They're concerned with safety and security, safety of the rider and security. So they really like the product and the direction, but there's no agreement.
Okay,
Suboa,
gotcha.
going on the left-hand side, we've got, of course, the PO, the Suboa.
Okay.
We have a letter of intent. That's 10,000 units. Junto is on proposal, but they're a startup, so things are a little slow there. QuietKat, who's done a deal with Jeep now, is doing really well. They're a distributor of bikes here.
Okay.
We're talking to them this week, letter of intent there. Hawaiian Style Rentals really love the tours. Omni, they're kind of waiting and seeing at the moment. Smoke Shield is not really a micro-mobility product. Sydney Electric Bikes just contacted me last week. They have 400 bikes. They want the product. We've got to sort out specifications with them.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of those tier 4s.
Okay. Oh, very good. Thank you. I guess other question or comment is, I like the idea that you had mentioned about going up what I'll call the channel or the distribution chain, looking at distributors. That's something that I had always done. And I like doing that because you could build what I call channel leverage, where you sell it, you get a deal with one company and they'll sell it, 100 or 1,000 or more times, right? Because they have all those, people on the street and have those channels established already. The one thing you might want to think about is also, and I know you said you have a Nokia background, so I'm sure this will you'll appreciate this. You know, companies like Verizon Wireless, as an example, who I used to work with very closely up until about a year ago or so. You know, they're very big into IoT. Like all the other wireless carriers. But I know Verizon in particular, when they were, and this information is about a year old now, but when they were, looking at how they were going to, get themselves established within the IoT space, one of the first verticals that they were targeting was fleet management.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you might want to think about is reaching out to the Verizon venture group and having a chat with those folks, because it sounds like this could be something that could be very interesting to them, given the fact that they're really trying to drive their IoT strategy. Technology-wise, they're in good shape, but they're looking to understand how they can commercialize all this stuff, and and they could be a good distributor for you. Whereas they have the feet on the street, working with all these different companies. If there's an opportunity maybe to get some funding from them and then leverage their channel capabilities, that might be something of interest. I know the other wireless carriers are doing similar things, but I know probably more about Verizon than anyone else, and do know that fleet management was one of their sweet spots.
That's a great idea. I do have a guy who does a bit of work for Verizon. He's not mentioned that they have a venture group. Maybe he just didn't know. That it sounds like a really good fit, doesn't it? I mean,
it does. It does.
Market, and
it does.
Need it. It'll help.
Yeah. So get online. Check on LinkedIn. You could probably get some names of people, but it's Verizon Ventures.
Verizon Ventures, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll definitely be doing that.
More questions from the audience?
Peter, I had another question. We had Lime scooters on campus briefly, and then the underage young student was killed in Elizabeth, and Elizabeth and Kane lost our scooters soon after that. It seems like the liability issue with these electric vehicles is significant, and I don't know that Lime Scooters has come up with a solution for preventing underage riders to rent these scooters. I was thinking that your device, if you can determine helmets, I was wondering if there was a way to determine whether the rider was underage. That would probably be of great interest to some of these electric vehicle companies, just because right now they have not been able to address the liability issue when people use these vehicles either drunk, that was a problem in Newark, or just underage, and they're not supposed to be using the vehicles, because it's pretty much of an honor system right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would think you'd be answering a huge filling a huge gap or answering a huge opportunity there that I don't think the companies have been able to figure out how to address.
That's a fabulous couple of ideas and examples, and I totally agree with you. I think for us to reach the full potential of this market, which is 1,000 times, we need to solve those and other problems. I think liability is going, especially in the US, with the way sort of business is structured legally. I think that we can position ourselves to do a whole bunch of smart things. I don't know specifically how to solve those ones, but perhaps there's a machine learning element to it to determine someone's age. It sounds like more on the difficult end of the spectrum. Like helmets is really easy because it's such an obvious thing. Determining age might be more difficult. Determining if someone's drunk or not could also be a little tricky, because someone can be wobbly because they're new or wobbly because they're drunk. So you've really thrown some great challenges my way. But I agree. I think we can do this ultimately over time, and we'll get smarter and smarter, and somehow we've got to try and at least keep up, if not stay ahead of those that want to take risks and produce risks for the fleet owners. Leave those problems with me, and I'll sleep on them.
And Pete, I have my own question as the city biker user and biker, and I'm not sure whether I'm fully see the difference or maybe following your business model. And is it completely different just using app as a just individual user? They can download the app, and then instead of approaching the manufacturer and combining with a hard sale and the subscription model, is it different model if you approach using the app, and then each individual user using their mobile can have access to this business in their individual biker, regardless of which biker they're using, they can still get this service. I'm not sure whether I'm fully understanding the technology behind. So is it a different model? Is it you see a difference, or is that part of your model?
Okay, so the traditional model for bike sharing is that somebody uses their own phone and they download an app, and then they put their phone away, and then they ride the bike with no information to help them. We're challenging that model in two ways. We believe that, and you're right to ask me this one, because I wrangled with this for many years, because people said, why don't you just use your own phone? Well, there's a few reasons. And when I was taking a bike ride in Vail in Colorado, it explained this really, really well. From the first time I wanted to ride the guy's bike till we actually went for the ride, he was with me for 25 minutes, me and my wife, setting up the bike, getting the helmet on, showing us, signing the waivers and the liability forms. And then once we got on the bike, he said, oh, just turn left, turn right, and go here and see that. And look, I'd forgotten everything he said. So for him, there was a lot of overhead in getting the rental bike up and running. This app, this software feature can be all done through the phone. So someone can be standing there waiting in the queue or on the train or on the approach, they can get everything set up. They don't need an app. They just do it through the web. And we're doing it that way to stop the bloatware problem. Nobody wants to download multiple apps. I had this problem in Colorado as well, where I set up one scooter, and then the battery was flat. So I had to go and set up for another company. So I went from Lime to one of the others. And I'm bloating up my phone with apps. Nobody wants that. And then once you get on the bike, how do you navigate? Where do you go? What do you do? Well, you can keep stopping and pulling out your phone and using your own phone and putting it back in your pocket, or you can try riding one-handed, which is not safe. But wouldn't it be great if instead of that, you just put your phone away, but you still have all the information that you need that was already pre-set up. So you can set it all up on your phone, but once you're on the bike, you've got two hands and a display in front of you. So it really improves it really improves the user's experience, because it solves a couple of those problems. Nobody wants their $1,100 iPhone clipped onto the front of their bike, potentially falling off, getting scratched or damaged or even stolen. Why not have a device that's already fixed there that gives them all the information for that particular ride? And it's providing all this other information back to the fleet manager. So it's taking two things, taking the user's phone and the IoT device that's already there, putting into one and making a much, much better and more seamless solution.
All right, thank you for the clarification. That clarifies the difference.
Well, sorry, I didn't explain it very well. There's quite many aspects to it. And feel free to ask me more, because I can go down quite a few avenues as to why it's better.
But one more thing I want to see in terms of the growth model, right? Your model success depending on which manufacturer provider actually you get a contract with, right? And
how do you mean?
yours is
The customer or the supplier?
Hardware sale too, right?
Yeah. So one of the ways we're leveraging the opportunity with Buy My EV is a good example. He's already very willing to be a distributor for us in India. So he's taking 3,000. He's introducing us to 10 other companies that want this service. Just one of them alone, it has 25,000. So we're doing a deal with him that's going to help ship a product to him. I think if we fast forward many, many years, we could see ourselves out of the whole hardware business and really into the software side of things, where we're using distributors who talk directly with suppliers, and we're licensing technology from suppliers to ship the hardware. And we are controlling this through all through the software.
Peter, in your growth model, have you considered the seasonality of this in terms of in those climates where the electric vehicles cannot be used during the winter months or bad weather? Have you calculated that into your growth model?
Well, that's a good point. I don't have a lot of data on the seasonality of how it works. I mean, I know the bike industry quite well and how you sell bikes. It's all around the summertime. People go into the spring is when they preload their stores and they sell through the summer, and then it gets really quiet, especially in the winter. How this works, especially when you're talking about our product going into global markets, where summer will be in the north and then will be winter in the southern, we all get revenues, I think, flopping backwards and forwards. I think how much I should dial back my expectations of recurring revenue, I don't really have any data on that.
The next question is a quick one, and I've been curious about it the whole time. How do you keep these things from being stolen?
Yeah, so they're $150 unit, so they're not like someone stealing an iPhone. That's one thing. Second thing is it doesn't look like a phone. It looks like part of an integrated part of the bike. So there's no real desire to steal it. And thirdly is that I virtually have to destroy it to get it off. It's locked on with a product. There's several products out there, but one company has a device called a pinhead, which is this unique kind of screw that you have to have a lock in order to undo it. And if you don't have that lock, it's very, very hard to undo the screw. So our fleet manager gets the keys that lock it on, and then to get it off, they'd really have to break it, and that's likely going to destroy the phone inside. I have to say, and then there's the security side of things. So people start doing that type of thing. The camera is woken up, it started recording, it's sending messages to the fleet manager, and we've even got plans for it automatically doing all that and then warning the assailant, hey, you realize that your photo's been taken and sent to the cloud. Might be a good idea to stop that behavior. And finally, we can't completely stop it. There's always someone will find a way around it. I think the thing is to have it as unattractive as possible, as difficult as possible, and have the consequences as high as possible. And that's the best we can really do.
Great. Thank you for the questions. Is there any final question?
Yeah, this is Bruce. I have one more, if I may.
Yep, please.
And my question is, one thing that I really don't know that I've heard over this last time is, what is the competition, if any, for your product and service at this time?
Yeah, okay. If you give me a few seconds, I can just flip the presentation because I've got a great slide on that. I don't normally put it in this presentation, but I do have something that I'll answer that. And a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So it might be just worth me firing that slide up.
While he's finding the slide, I just wanted to say this has been a really great experience for the 1 Million Cups community. I thought this Zoom meeting worked really, really well, and thank you, Bach, for hosting it.
You're very welcome.
I think this really opens up opportunities for us with other presenters. And thank you, Peter. This has been such an exciting presentation. It was a perfect one to go online for the first Zoom 1 Million Cups here. So thank you very much.
Okay. Well, we can talk about this after I answer this question, but I've got 25 years in working virtually, and I learned a whole ton of things over the last 2 weeks, which I didn't know. It's made me realize just, again, how great this virtual stuff is at the moment and how much you can do. But we can talk about that later. So this is the competition slide. So Skillion's connected dashboard competes with companies like RideSo, which have a phone app. And this is going to help the previous question from Bach about why the phone app is is inferior, because all those nodes, you can't do all those things with a phone app. You can do those, but you can't do those. Co-Module's a company out of Estonia that make IoT devices, but they don't have a display. Lime, well, we don't know what the ride-sharing guys are doing right now in R&D, but at the moment they have no display capabilities on their products. Bosch is a motor manufacturer. Their target is really for the end customer, and they've built a system which goes on with their motor. Does have a tiny little display, but it is not connected to the internet. So there's limitations in what they can do. And Garmin's got a bunch of bike systems as well. Again, they do little tiny displays, but again, they're not connected and they don't have the flexibility of a platform like ours. That's kind of a cross. And we don't, so I think we're quite unique in the sense that we've got this connected dashboard integrated to the bike, providing the fleet management tools.
It's great, thank you. And then last question is the representing our 1 Million Cups community. As a community, 1 Million Cups community, what could we help you for your business? Anything we could help and assist?
Well, you've given me some great leads for funding and the NAFA. I'm going to follow up on those. So that was really helpful. And we are an IoT solutions provider. So we are doing work with other companies that need IoT solutions. The way we work with companies that want that type of solution is we consult to them. We offer them advice, not only on the technology, but on the business side of things. So we're always looking for opportunities with new customers.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much. And any final comments from our audience from the floor? If not, I would like to thank again, Pete, your fascinating presentation and your business model. Actually, definitely this is a leading case. And also as Janine, as our, the organizer, our community. And it's been very new experiment for us too, but with the Expo specialty in IT, it worked very well. And in this era of pandemic, and we will find a way we can actually survive and actually give in this pressure from this pandemic crisis. And hopefully everyone will stay safe. And we'll continue in our monthly meeting with all our dedicated the organizers here. And I thank you everyone being here. And we will look forward to seeing you each other in next month. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and stay strong. And Pete, again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Peter. Good job. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, stay safe, and stay well, everybody.
Stay well, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.